Okay, so real quick, like this video, don't watch this video if you're one of these people that are so hardcore in your opinions, you can't entertain another idea. Because on this issue, I flip-flopped 180 degrees. So if you're intransigent and you can't change your mind, don't watch this video because, yeah, I'll just piss you off. Let's talk women's rights. Because in America, women do not have full human rights their entire lives. We take their rights away, we give them to them slowly. Women slowly get their rights. And women really, I would say around 35 is when they max out their human rights. I'm not going to talk about the decline in women's rights as they age. I want to talk about the rights they get as they grow older, right? And to clarify what I mean, so a woman at 25 she can do pretty much anything. A woman at 20 cannot. A woman at 20 in America, in most states, maybe all of them, I don't know, can't buy alcohol. Under 18, she can't vote. Under 16, she can't drive. So the rights kind of build as a woman gets older. So that being said, you have the 35-year-old woman and the 15-year-old woman. They don't have the same rights, but are they both even really humans? I mean, I'm fully human. I'm a man. I'm fully human. But is a 15-year-old girl really fully human? Does she really count the way I do? Think about it now. Does she? What about when she's 10? Does she count? Does she still count as a full person at 10 years old? Aside from those three rights, driving, alcohol, and voting, does she still have all the other rights? What about at 5? 5 years old. Does she still count? Does she still have all the rights? What about at 5 days old? And by now you know where I'm going, don't you? 5 minutes old? I was there when all my children were born, and there's that moment when they're crowning. They're coming out. You see the top of their head. Pretty intense. At 5 seconds old, is that a person? Does that little girl count as a human being the way I do? What about when she's crowning? When she's crowning, when she's coming out? Is she a human? And if she's not, what changed in her? What changed about her? We could talk about the mom, but what changed with the her? If it's a person at 15, which you said, yes, she's a person, and at 10, and at 5, and at 5 minutes old, what changed about her between 5 minutes after she's born and when she's crowning? 5 minutes before the water breaks, did anything intrinsically obvious happen about? Like, was there a switch that went off? Did she suddenly morph into something else? When did she not become a person? When did her personhood, going back in time, when did it vanish? 5 weeks before? Do we know? Was it even 5 months before? Do we know? See, we talk about this issue and we say it's a woman's rights issue. And I was very pro-choice for a very long time because I thought, it's none of my business to say anything about it because I'm a man and that's all women's business. But then it dawned on me, part of it's a woman's issue. Part of it's a woman's rights issue because you're talking about the mom and her right to control her body. And that's very true. But then it dawned on me, what about the other entity? And it really didn't hit home really hard until people started talking about, when I started learning what late third term meant, especially when I had my own kids. I realized what that meant, and you see the ultrasounds and you know what that means for a third term one? Really? But then you say, like, well, when does it start? And you start asking questions, well, when do we say that's a person? Going back to conception, when do we say that's a person? And here's another thing that just baffles me about it. To believe the pro-choice thing, that it's a woman's issue and only a woman's issue, is to say that infanticide, the definition of that is literally based on whether or not the mother wants it to be that. So it's not the truth or the science or anything behind the child. That person has nothing to do with the truth of development or science or whether or not that's an actual entity, a human with human rights. It has nothing to do with that. It's all about what the mother thinks and feels at the moment. And my value as a human being doesn't change based on someone else's opinion of whether or not I'm human. I'm always going to be a human. You know? And the mother, she's a human. Whether I think she's a human or not, she's always going to be a human. It doesn't matter what from the outside I say about that person or what from the outside someone says about me. It doesn't change the truth of it. But when we talk about this issue, the truth is supposedly completely dependent upon what the mommy says. And she is a mommy. Whether she says it or not, she's a mommy. And I have a real hard time figuring out where one thing starts, infanticide, and the other thing stops. And if you can give me a real answer to that, I'm all ears.